Perfect. So I'm starting to record.
Wait,
Are you happy with your choices?
does it look weird with this bed in the background though?
um, the patterns between your shirt and the bed, I think, are
Or clashing?
yeah. So I think that a solid shirt would work fine for you, but I also don't know that it matters. This is your debut to people. What do you want?
Oh, well, thank you. I'm gonna change. Can you stop recording, please?
Yes. This is Michael, my partner, Michael. He and I have been together for about 5 years. And in fact, our 5th year anniversary happened for right before one of these episodes. And we still haven't celebrated that anniversary.
Yeah, COVID times. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me to do this. I'm excited to interrogate you about your art project experience over the last 10 weeks.
And we should say that we're in the exact same house right now, but we're doing this on Zoom so both of us can be on camera.
You said you wanted to give an introduction to this. Would you like to do that?
So this is a retrospective. Um, the entire art project that I'm engaged in is based off of a lot of different ideas and principles that I've learned from my job as a software engineer. And one of the things that I've always found the most valuable is adding in mindful reflection, because I think it's really easy to kind of get into the pattern of doing something without actually pausing and asking yourself questions. And there's also like a million things that I want people to know about this project that I want to talk about that I never had the opportunity to in the actual 30-minute show. So I've decided to do this after every 10 episodes.
Well, cool. Well, I have prepared some questions for you. What story did you like sharing the most?
I had the most fun making the Flying Dutchman. There was just so much really good source material to dig into and to like cobble together. So I had like a lot of fun making that happen. But also, like my favorite story to share was probably Lady Whitesnake, because it's just such a good story and I had never heard of it before. And there's so much other good material out there that's already telling that story. So I think I was happiest to share that with people. And I had the most fun with Flying Dutchman. What
Big
was
fan.
your favorite story, Michael? Do I get to ask you
Oh,
questions too?
that's not how this works. But um, would have to be the juniper tree story. Because I
Really?
actually, yeah, because I didn't know about that story before. Had never heard of it and was really surprised by, I don't know, this the whole situation that they portrayed in that story, and found it very messed up and very interesting. I feel like that one in my mind captures the spirit of like what you're trying to accomplish with Swisto, but I could be wrong about that.
Because it's fucked up.
Well, I think, when you like presented this idea of like doing this project, you said that, you wanted to learn more about the tarot, but also like share like maybe less commonly known um, fairy tales. And I think for that one for me fit into that category that I didn't know about that fairy tale, and it was maybe just so surprising that it sticks out in my mind. But I don't know.
Hmm. You've known all the other fairy tales, though. That's shocking to me. I'm really impressed by that.
No, I just no. I think like the others just haven't been as like, I don't know, shocking. Yeah,
Okay,
maybe it's just
gotta
like
gotta up the shock factor for you in the next 10 episodes.
maybe, yeah, like yeah, give me more juniper tree content.
Okay, all right. I'll see what
Because
else
I like,
Bjork has done in her past.
yeah, like I just like the idea of like um these are tales that we told to children, and then like for that one, like that one as an example is like really messed up. Like why would you ever tell that to your kids?
Well, so that's an interesting thing that I feel like I've learned throughout all of this is that, like, for a long time, fairy tales, they weren't necessarily always for children. These were just like stories that were told by people, like folk tales, fairy tales, just like tales of morality in some cases. But I mean, it's interesting that we have this assumption or this like feeling that these should be stories for children, because there are so many adult themes that exist with all of these. And that's actually why I think like why I personally am attracted so much to like Pixar stories and Disney stories, and like always want to go and watch those. There are these like human themes that I think actually resonate with a larger group of people. And so I think that it would be really cool if it was possible to revive these with an adult audience.
How about cocktails? So you have a cocktail and a mocktail for every episode. Which one did you like the best out of the cocktails that you've tried?
I was pleasantly surprised by the virgin margarita that I think that I made for La Mat Lazihua. The other ones that stick out are the gingerbread white Russian for the gingerbread man. What was the one you really liked?
The soju. Yes.
Umeshu cooler. It was an umeshu
Oh.
cooler from the Mirror of Matsuyama.
Oh, so I'm just like totally off on that.
Yeah, but the you made cute little candles from those umeshu bottles.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. I like the cute bottles. Cute bottles, good flavor. Umeshu cooler. Okay, cool. Next question. Which costume was the most fun for you to put together?
To be honest, most of the costumes I put together about an hour before the show starts. So I'm trying to remember. I really liked my costume and makeup for the Frog of the North because I did those shoulder pads and I did makeup with like little dragon scales going down. That may be my favorite outfit.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Oh, I hear
Why?
brisket.
What is interesting about that?
Oh, I
Come
just
here.
thought I expected you to say that you like the gingerbread man the most because I feel like that was the one you're like, I don't know. For some reason, that one sticks out in my mind as you like being like very like, I don't know, into that one because you're just like, hey, look, I made myself into a gingerbread man. I don't know.
I have to spend so much time doing all the research and like preparation, the character cutouts, yada 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 before these shows that most of the time I'm like, I want to put on makeup and I want to get a costume together. And so I'm just trying to figure that out. Like the gingerbread thing I decided to do at the last minute right before that thing started. And as you know, you're kind of always my my tester. If I walk out and you go, oh no, then I'm like, oh fuck, I've gotta change this. Um, and so I just decided to lean into that, and there wasn't really much of an opportunity to take it off. What about
Cool.
you? What's your favorite costume?
I don't remember which one it was, but it was the Midsommar inspired costume. Um,
Strength. That was the Mirror of Matsuyama episode. Yeah.
oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Next question. Of the stories that you've read so far, do you have a favorite character?
Uh, it's either episode one, the Mother of Winds, because I loved that character. I thought she was so fun, and the concepts of the Four Winds was really neat. Probably my actual favorite character is the daughter in the Mirror of Matsuyama, because she's so sweet and so innocent in that moment, and is, I don't know, I just feel like I really relate to this character that is creating, that is clearly trying to solve all of her own problems in her head and trying to like move everything forward. And so the reveal in the moment of trying to adhere to the wishes of her mother and trying to be the best person that she possibly can. It's just like, for me, that was just a really heartbreaking and empathizing reveal.
Yeah, favorite character, I would say would probably be, I'm not going to pronounce this right, but Lazihua,
You
the
pronounced it
swamp.
perfectly.
Oh wow, crazy. But yeah, the swamp monster siren that kind of beckoned the character from that story in. I found that to be very creepy, and I've thought about that since. All right, so next question. What is your favorite vocabulary word out of all of the stories you shared so far?
Gimbal. Um,
Remind me, what does that mean?
there is this machine at the front of a ship that has a gyrosphere in it, and it's the gimbal I'm pretty sure is what contains all of that and that allows it all to stay steady while you're going. But every time I think about it, I think of Mr. Grimble, which is this character from a friend from Austin that he did this amazing character called Mr. Grimble.
Gimbal. Got it. Cool. Dina's having a moment behind me right now.
As you get distracted with the cat.
I mean, look at her. Okay. What has been the most challenging aspect of this project so far for you?
It's entirely psychological. Simply doing this and deciding to put myself out there. I mean, you remember I did feedback episodes for before this, and after that first one, I like completely broke down, and it's been really challenging, day after day, after every episode to process everything. It has gotten easier over time, which is actually part of the reason why I wanted to do this. You know, there's kind of like an exercise in vulnerability and why these have come so quick and so fast over time. I'm sure like later in the series, I'll feel more like the pace is probably the hardest thing, but that would be a huge improvement over simply sharing something creative. Listening to people, like when friends text me and they say, "Good job," or "I really enjoyed that." I am currently trying to get back into therapy so I can deal with this. But when I hear those things, I'm just like, stop lying to me. I just want to be like, um, yeah, it's really hard for me to hear those things. And that's a new thing. You know, I've been in therapy for a number of years. That is a new quirk that I think has been particularly vicious since I started doing this. It's been really, really hard to listen to anybody say anything kind.
Now that you've completed 10 stories, how has your preparation process changed or developed from when you first started?
Okay, I want to know your answer to this first because you see me prepare.
Um, I would say, yeah, my answer would be um, you kind of have like a basis of like stories that you've read already. And so, like, I think it's becoming a little faster for you to like connect the dots between like stories that you've come across and the themes like between the tarot cards. So I feel like that process is a little faster. I also think that as you've gotten more comfortable with, uh, putting yourself out there, for lack of a better phrase, you haven't done as many practices beforehand. Like I think for the first one, you did like a ton. I forget how many, but now you're kind of just doing like a couple of run throughs before showtime. So I think that preparate like the amount of times practicing has shortened, and I'd say maybe like your research period has shortened somewhat, but the other things have stayed similar.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. Yeah, I actually think that the research has sparked up um, in some degrees, and also really depends on the story and the source material, like what actually exists. I'm constantly trying to find things that are like open source and to not take things that people don't want to have taken and to give credit where credit is due, which is why I always publish the text. Not only that, because I don't know. I don't actually know if anybody actually looks at the text. Have you ever looked at one of the texts? Have you ever even clicked on those links? Have you ever clicked on a link in the description?
Um, yeah, I did once. I don't remember why, but yeah, I did.
Um, I, but I have found it to be a lot more fun to lean into the vocab words each time. So each time I like complete the story, then I'm trying to figure out what vocab words I want to dive into. In anything that I Wikipedia, I try and include a link to in the text, and then I just try and do a deep dive and figure out what kind of fun things I can say about that. So that's gotten bigger. Um, the more story, so at this point I've read a whole bunch of stories from South America, and I've got this big spreadsheet with all the continents broken down by country, and I'm trying to do research on folk tales from each of these different ones that I can find original stories from those locales for fodder for whatever I may draw, so that I can hopefully find these stories a little bit faster. because reading through all of these is really what takes the most time.
I've noticed you've selected stories from many different sources, a lot of which coming from different cultures, in different countries. Like, is that intentional? Like, why are you doing that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. All these stories are really white. Like all of the fairy tale stories that we know are very white. They're very European. And there's still a lot in there that I don't know. But they're also the most told stories. I didn't want this project to be a series of stories about white people for white people. I wanted to be mindful of that. I really wanted to learn about other cultures. I realized that the things that I was really intrigued by in fairy tales were true for any number of different cultures. And so I really wanted to make sure that I represented those, and at least did some due diligence to figure those things out. I don't know if you can see this if I move this back. Yeah. Um, all of those are new books. Everything in that back corner are new books, which is driving Michael crazy because they come in all the time.
They don't fit on the
But
shelf anymore.
I got so many new books from South America, and I'm just now trying to pour over Africa. And by the end of this project, I want to have done research on every country that currently exists on the internet to find folk tales to get those books under my hands. I almost certainly don't have bandwidth while doing this project, but I'm really interested in finding a way of creating like a online wiki that doesn't seem to exist. Like I have seen a lot of disparate resources that exist, but finding some way to allow people across the world to collaborate and like add their folk tales under different categorizations, it's something that doesn't currently exist that I think 100% should exist, because it's been really cool as I've been doing this project, finding like other weird people in different ends of the world that have also been really interested in folk tales and have decided that they're just gonna lean hard into folk tales for a little while and put them up. And that is something that I think should exist, and that I would like to make happen if it doesn't exist by the time I have finished this project.
So next question, you said that one of your goals in doing this project was to learn more about the tarot in general. What have you learned so far?
Well, I mean, I truly knew nothing when I started this. I like Googled card for new beginnings, and that's how I landed on the Fool. I don't know. That there is a lot of symbolism inherent in the images that are drawn, and it's intriguing because I believe it was Writer published these. White is actually the one that assembled them, and I forget who it is that drew all of these original images, but they had a profound influence on, I think, the interpretation of a lot of these cards. There's a lot of symbolism in all of these images, but it's the images that are attached to the cards that I think give them a lot of meaning in interpretation. So that's one of them. The other is that there's like direct correlations between the actual tarot and our modern deck of cards, which people may not be able to see, but like is actually all over our house, because that's something that I've always been really fascinated by, not only because I love games, but I just think that's very interesting. And I really want to, there's tarot games that I want to learn and make some videos about tarot games where you can play.
All right, next question. So you mentioned that part of your motivation for doing this project was to build connection and community. And now that you have 10 stories under your belt, how do you think that's going? Like, how does this project accomplish that goal?
This is funny because I remember when I first started doing this, I kept saying that I wanted this to feel like being at a bar. And this always drove you crazy because you were like, it's not like we're at a bar.
I still think that's true. Yeah. Because how often do you go to a bar and there's someone, in drag telling a story from, wherever, like some old fairy tale.
You know, it's maybe it's less about that and it's more about this. It's recreating a similar feeling. Like I guess maybe it's just the high that I feel having done this and realizing that I'm connecting with a few of my friends or some other people. Um, is so electrifying that it feels as though I've been at the bar for like 2 hours and I'm surrounded by my best friends. And maybe it's a little selfish in that way. In my ideal world, I think that I think that there's a lot of untapped opportunity in live performance and connectivity. And I think that while I don't want to be sitting in a Broadway show with people that have their phone out, the necessity of technology available to people right now, there being a chat where people can commune and kind of converse and talk about these things is exciting to me. And I still don't think that I've figured out how to tap into it exactly well just yet, or how to engage people in a way with the technology or all of this stuff in the way that I have it yet. I still think that there's an incredible amount of opportunity there. Um, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel when you're messaging people in the chat? Is that nothing? Like, I mean, I feel like even when I am just like rewatching these and I see the chats come through, even if there are only two comments, it's like, hey, two human beings interacted during this thing because this thing came together. And I don't know, that overjoys me.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I can see community building being built, yeah, through like the chat and through people like interacting, a lot of your friends, but also like connecting different people that are interested in like the different aspects that make up the story. So like seeing the comment from that woman from France who had shared her like profile, and she has like a bunch of like content like about the
Yeah,
tarot
Red
and
Moon
stuff.
Venus. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think like, this is, your project's still in this very like
Caroline.
preliminary, yeah, yeah, very preliminary stages. So it's like, I think those things will potentially continue to build upon one another. We talked about a lot so far, but I'm curious about any feedback or criticism that you've gotten so far that's stuck with you the most.
Not a lot of people use the feedback form since I've started. I remember my friend Kelsey said more nudity after the first episode. And other than that, people have mostly just reached out to say nice things. In the feedback sessions that I did leading up to launching this, there was at least one really good piece of feedback each time. In the first feedback session, I was reading it, literally reading it off of the screen, because the first time I had experienced this was doing Hop Frog with Butch Mermaid and Think Korean Verse. And I just kind of thought that people wouldn't be able to tell I was reading off of a screen, looking down here without looking up here. Um, I I remember another piece of feedback was from Anya, who said they were like, I don't know where to look. And that's actually the whole reason that I had the little cutouts, which I'm so glad that I did. That's honestly the biggest pain every week of trying to get this story ready, is figuring out the whole placeholder situation. But I think that was a really huge change. I don't remember any other particular ones. Can you? Do you?
Yeah, I remember one being that you like I've seen you incorporate being that like there's so much out on YouTube where people like, use video editing software to like superimpose like images and different things, and like there's a lot you can do with like video editing, but like because like where there's like almost like an oversaturation of that, one of the bits of feedback you got was like um like lean into like the lo-fi
Lo-fi,
nature.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Amanda, that was Amanda's feedback. Yeah.
yeah, so what have you learned about yourself in doing this art project?
I've spent a lot of time creating walls around myself so that I don't have to be vulnerable. And I'm really proud of myself for starting to do this project, but amount of pain it has caused me trying to get this out is so much more than I really would have anticipated on paper, just like reading the idea. And that tends to be how I go about the world, is like, oh, on paper it's fine, and then I like deal with the emotions later. And I have really been surprised at how much my psyche has reacted to doing all of this. I'm also really proud of myself of trying to combine a lot of the things that I know are good, and that work from my work life, and throw them into my creative space. I feel like for the most part that has worked. I've learned that I can throw together a show most weeks with 1 week's notice. I've really resonated on this idea of inspiration and spirituality, because I'm an atheist and I don't believe in God, and I for a lot of my life have been really judgmental of religion. But the more I have learned about the community of tarot readers, the more I kind of resonate with this idea of spirituality and kind of what feels good, what gives you energy, what gives you inspiration, what gives you power. And that has been really interesting to me, because I've never associated that with religion. Religion has always been like a very one way, you're doing it wrong, your life choices are a mistake kind of thing. And so it's been really interesting to retouch all of that, and it's been really gratifying, and I'm really excited to I don't know, be at the beginning of what I feel like is a much longer journey with all of that.
What are you looking forward to in the next 10 shows?
I don't know, 10 more stories. I feel like such a deep and personal connection with each of the stories that I've learned. And like I have in this box all of my vocab words and all of my characters. And I have in this book 10 stories like that I printed and edited and like consolidated, and like all of that is so cool. And through that process I learned a lot more about people. I learned a lot of new words. I learned about a lot of new cultures. And so I hope I'm able to learn about even more cultures and expand my viewpoint and in my frame of reference in a lot of different ways. Um and I hope that I learned a lot more about myself, like as somebody that's creating, because I feel like that keeps changing as I go through all of this.
So, final question. Where do you see Swisto going in the future?
My plan is for this to cover the tarot deck, 78 cards, and so that's where I see it going. That's where I see it ending. I very much see this process as kind of a creative, not even reawakening, just awakening for myself, something that I am doing for myself, forcing myself to be vulnerable, forcing myself to go through this process, to be wrong, to make mistakes, and to put myself out there so that I can learn through this process and be inspired through this process, figure things out. And so I see this, see this going through 78 episodes, and I see this as a vehicle for me to learning a lot, and hopefully bringing more people in for entertainment and entertaining more people throughout that process. To all of my really close friends that keep tuning in to watch this, you don't have to. You can tune out if you want.
They come
What's
and
it
go
been
so
like for
quickly.
you watching me do all of this?
It's been fun. Yeah, I've enjoyed uh, seeing you put this together. I think it is a good outlet. I do see you, struggling with like the vulnerability of like putting yourself out there, but I know that, or I believe that, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be. The way in which that gets better is like through repetition, and then eventually like, hopefully reaching an understanding that like it doesn't matter, and that like you have to put yourself out there, if you want, and you have to be authentic in the way you do that, because that's the only way that the people that are interested in like this thing and are interested in you are going to like find it, is by putting it out there. So I think like, I don't know, I think it's cool that you're doing it, and I think it is a huge exercise in growth. I think you have learned a lot, and you definitely have gotten way more comfortable with all of this, like over the last 10 weeks. But yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see how that continues and how you continue to change. It's been fun watching that. It's been fun for me to like to watch the episodes. I know I'm the I've been voluntold to wrangle the cats every week, so that's sometimes a challenge. But I mean, I'm happy to do it. So.
Is there anything that I'm like doing in the show right now that you're like, nah, cut it?
Like every video you have starts with you like saying, "Call it, call it." It's like the same tone, the same. I don't know. Like, yeah,
Yeah. The reason I like it
call it.
is the reason that I like it is because I think this is the same reason that I'm really obsessed with the idea of a deck of cards, is this element of chance. And so at the beginning of each episode, I've written 2 spells, or what I call spells, on each of those slips of paper. And people don't actually call it. I kind of wish that they
Yeah, and maybe
would.
that's like part of it too. Is like no
Yeah,
one's
I mean, like in my dream world, everyone, when I say call it, people in the chat are putting in what they think it is, and it is called. Like, or I do this like at a live show, and people like yell out what they think it might be, and there's an element of that is an element of live theater that I'm like trying to pull into it, which is that like there's the audience expectation, then what actually exists, and then the actual beginning of the show actually starts with hopefully an interaction. It's a call to action with the audience, and then chance, an element of chance. What the actual words are at the beginning of each episode is dependent on how the card or how the coin falls. And what each episode then becomes is the result of like what is randomly drawn. And I don't know, to me that's what's exciting about it. But I hear what you're saying around the words call it.
Yeah, I thought you just read the same spell on heads and tails, just like to make it easier.
No, in each one it's written differently. So there is a whole, well, okay, so actually like the reason I launched this on Groundhog Day is because there was a whole different world that I was thinking about, like diving into time loops rather than folk tales, and thinking about this idea of chance and whatnot.
I don't know, your gratitude changes. Like, are you ever worried about like running out of people to think?
No, I'm not worried about running out of things to be grateful for. I'm a very, very lucky person.
Yeah.
What about you? Okay, so and here's my other question. What is your favorite thing? What is the thing that like you're like, keep it, don't change it?
Well, I like the stories sometimes. Most of the time I like the stories. I like that you're, trying to find other stories. I like the tarot aspect. And I like that you usually use the tarot card as the character um, in the story. I'd say that might be my favorite thing. Just like the use of characters like in storytelling, and then also like the connection that you make with the tarot deck when you actually like incorporate a character like from the card that week. Gratitude is nice. I don't know.
You
It's
just
like
said the gratitude is nice, like somebody that doesn't like a gratitude.
no, no, I think it's good. It's just like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm just thinking about like the weird, like the random people that are gonna like hear you thinking you're like financial planner and be like, what the fuck? 'Cause you are getting personal with those things.
What a
And I think
problem to
that's
have, though. I think that one of the things that I keep trying to lean into is this idea of being vulnerable and being really honest, and hoping that for me is what attracts me to a lot of like the things that inspire me. Um, And so I hope that hearing things like that, even if they don't know the people individually, or like resonates or connects with people on some level.
Yeah.
Maybe not you, but are we done?
I think so, unless you want me to say anything else.
Thank you for doing this for me and for coming up with the questions. That was a really sweet thing for you to do, and for putting up with me as I make this happen every single week. I know it can't be easy being my partner as I have gone through this very emotionally challenging journey.
No, it's been fine. It's been nice. Because I know, like, as you say as well, that there's lots of pain associated with growth. So I think it's like it's the hard stuff, but it's the good stuff. So yeah, it's been fine, and it hasn't been that hard for me. You're the one doing all the work, so
And you get a cocktail every week, right?
yeah, and you give me like free stuff, so win-win.
um, I'm not going to close with the thought the gratitude. Do you want to maybe sing your version of it?
What the may you be happy,
Yeah.
may you be sad,
Mm-hmm.
may you be full of love.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that's what I get to hear, everybody, after
May you
this.
be happy, may you be sad, may you be full of love, full of love. Okay, time to go.
And this is how I feel supported every week at the end of these shows. Thank you, Michael. I love
Time
you.
to feed the cats.